Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. You've landed on Come Ride With Me, a podcast dedicated to helping you find harmony, joy, and success in your riding. I'm your host, Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened. This pod isn't about training your horse, but about training you to be the best partner for your horse. Listen to find out how I use my intention to direct my ride. You'll hear how I decide what to focus on, what to say yes to, and when to redirect my horse. You'll see how not getting frustrated or overwhelmed is the easiest path to sanity and harmony. So, what are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Hey horse fiends, welcome back to another episode of Come Ride With Me. This week I am going to talk a little bit more about my teaching strategy that you saw in the last episode, because I realize that it may be a little bit different from a traditional dressage lesson, if you will, that most people would go to. I teach this way for a couple of reasons, but the main reason being that horses and humans both learn best in a state of play. Right? This is why it's so important to allow children to play, because that's how they get their early education. It's also why schools incorporate play and games and things like that into education. As adults, we still learn better in a playful atmosphere than we do in a strict, controlled, like work type environment. You will always pick things up faster and they will stick with you better when you've learned them playing than when you have not. And this is why you can remember the lyrics to songs, but not, what you're supposed to do at work today. So the principle of play is so important when training horses and humans. It is one of the top drives of a horse. So safety, play, comfort, food, those are their drives. So they want to be comfortable, they want to feel safe, then they'll play with you, and then they could eat. So incorporating this play mentality into what you're doing with them is much more effective than the traditional operant conditioning. I'm going to do this until we're both sick of doing it, and then the horse is just going to remember. And what happens in that model is that the horse will remember the pattern. The horse may indeed remember some of the shape that they've been placed in. They're going to remember what caused them the least amount of angst, and that's what they're going to do. They're not going to be actively engaged with you going, okay, what do you need me to do next? What do I need to fix? Did I get tight? What do I need to do? They're not going to be that. They're just going to be doing what they think you want them to do to leave them alone and to make them the most comfortable. Right? Because again, comfort is top on their list, safety and comfort. So when you look at it from a play model, you do have to do sometimes more things in the beginning, and you have to learn the feel. You have to learn, when is my horse giving me some effort? When is he not? When is he happy about what he just did? When does he feel playful? That's important. That playful energy is what you need to get the exuberance in the upper levels of any sport in horses, right? Doesn't matter whether it's dressage, jumping, whatever. That exuberance is what gets them there. So if you quash the exuberance when they're younger and they're learning, it's really hard to get it back. And I would say probably impossible. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep that playful spirit going and teach the horse that they can do these things. They can have self-carriage. in doing them, right? That's what we're going for anyway. It's not the robot that we're holding them and we're keeping them in this package and we're getting them around the arena inside little white fences. It's about the horse having self-carriage and being sensitive and responsive to our cues. Okay, so that's a little bit of me on my soapbox. Now, the traditional type lessons are not without merit. There are some wonderful instructors out there that can tell you what to do, can get your horse and you going in a certain way, and you can feel the brilliance in the moment, right? You can feel that shoulder in or half pass or flying change or whatever it is that you've been struggling with. The key is that when you feel that, you need to mark it in your brain. You need to stamp it. You need to stamp it in your brain. You need to stamp it in your horse's brain. You need to reward them. You need to reward yourself. You need to take a minute and you need to remember that, because if you just keep pushing through and you don't stamp it, your body doesn't remember. And then it's really hard to recreate that same feeling outside of a lesson. Which is why so many people feel like, they need a lesson every week or twice a week or whatever, because they aren't able to recreate at home what is happening in their lessons. And that's because they're not playing with it. They're not using their own brains. They're not free thinking and coming up with solutions and the right answers on their own. So I really do believe that having both types of teachings in your life is wonderful, because you will learn from thinking about the play angle. You will learn so much about yourself, about your horse. In the other model, you're going to learn what things feel like. And in the play model, you're going to learn the feel. That's where you're going to learn the feel. So if you've ever been like, I don't have a good feel, I need to figure out how to feel, that's why. Because your playful brain is not on, and you're not concentrating on the things that are going to cause you to feel. And it seems like a hard thing. A lot of people say, well, you can't teach feel. Da, da, da. Well, you can. And you can learn it. It's just that it often means stepping away from the traditional lesson model that a lot of us are familiar with. One of my other big principles is to reward the try for both the horse and the rider. So if you feel like, or if I see that your horse just gave you a big effort, I'm going to tell you to stop and reward the horse. If I notice, or if the student feels like they gave a really good effort and they really did something to help their horse in that moment, then I'm going to tell you to stop and reward yourself. And what I like to do is I like to teach students to feel these moments on their own, so they can stop and do it themselves, because I may not always see it. Of course, if I'm not riding, I can't feel it. So I need for the riders to know when they can, or when they feel like they should, stop and reward either themselves or the horse, and not force them to keep going if they think something great just happened. Sometimes I have to ask people, like, what do you think just happened there? Because I didn't see anything. And that's not a bad thing. That is also another function of learning. Now they have to explain to me what they felt, which also further marks that and stamps that in their mind and their feeling, and gives them a stronger feeling of whatever it was that just happened. So I think those are a lot of the basic principles of how I go about teaching. using the play principle, rewarding the try, and then also rewarding the good and ignoring the bad. So much of what we want our horses to do, they can read through our own intention if our intention is strong enough. And there are several things that can cause your intention not to be strong enough. So oftentimes when you see a rider struggling to get the horse to do something, it's that their intention is just not good enough. It's not clear enough for the horse to know what they want. Now, using the play principle, you can work through that. You can play with different things, and you can finally figure out what's the right combination. But if in the meantime, the horse is doing something that you don't want the horse to do, if you stop and punish that behavior, now you've changed the game. And now the horse doesn't know, if I stop, like if I do this thing, we're going to stop. Maybe we're going to get punished, but we're going to stop whatever nonsense we've been doing. And that might be a better option for the horse. However, if they're doing something, they're taking a misstep, it's not exactly what you want, and you keep playing through it, you're just ignoring that they're not doing what you want exactly, but you're focused on your intention, and every time you feel them move towards your intention, and you feel them feel your intention, and they're like, how about this? How about this? And they're giving you some suggestions of what might be the right answer, and you're responding to those suggestions. Eventually, you're going to find the right thing, and then you can reward it. And then that's going to stamp it, and then your horse is going to remember that happily, and will be like, oh, if I just get to that point faster, we're done. Which is another great thing, and I feel like that kind of goes with the play principle, but a lot of people think that they need to work the horse, past a certain point, or they need to work them for a certain amount of time, or whatever it is. The biggest help to your training would be for you to get to those great moments and reward them right away, and then let your horse go play with their friends. Like, I like to sort of teach all my horses that we get on, we do the things, and then we can go play with our friends again. And I want them to be able to go play with their friends and say, hey, I did like these super cool things. I don't know if horses talk to each other like that, but anyway, that would be my feeling, right? Like, I want them to be like pumped, like, oh yeah, that was so cool. So I'm not going to drill this stuff incessantly. We're going to get in, get out, right? Get in, do the work, get out. And as the horse is learning something, if you're teaching a movement that, say, needs development, like pretty much all of them, right? But like the shoulder in or the half pass, and you get it, initially I go, can you put your shoulder in? And then if the horse is like, yes, I can, I'm like, awesome, we're stopping. Or we're not going to do that again right now. We might do it in another couple steps, or we might do it later. But I'm not going to say, can you put your shoulder in? And then can you go 60 meters down the long side with your shoulder in? That's not fair. And the horse doesn't have the strength for that. But the more times I put the horse in the shoulder in down that 60 meter long side, the stronger they're going to get. And the quicker they're going to get about following my lead, following my intention, and following my body language. So I try to make that as playful as possible. And, then we go on and we do something else. And maybe in a couple of days we come back to that and see if maybe we can shoulder in for 1 or 2 steps longer, right? And then 3 to 4 steps. And we keep going like that until that strength is built up and the understanding within the horse, right? So trying to force something in the beginning and force it to last for a longer period of time than the horse is capable of, again, you're not teaching them anything except to be miserable. So learn that feel. When is it enough? When is it too much? When can my horse not hold it anymore? I need to stop before then. Or I need to ask them if they already know the exercise and I feel like they're going to fall out of it. Can I ask them, could you do just one more step? And if they give me one more step, big praise, yes, yes, yes. If they don't, they're like, no, I can't. Okay, I have a little more work to do to get you to be able to do that next step. So always be rewarding the good, ignoring the bad, and training your horse like human athletes train, right? I think about when you think about athletes that do elite sport, they don't go into the gym and do the same thing every day. Their routines change. They work on different parts of their body. If they have a weak spot, let's say they have a weak spot in a squat, they're going to do some exercises at the top of the range of motion of their squat. They're going to do some exercises in the middle, and they're going to do some exercises at the bottom. And they're going to find out, where is that weak spot? Where do I not have the strength to put that extra plate on? And then they're going to work step by step through those different ranges of motion. They're going to build up that strength. And then they're going to be able to add another plate and do the full squat. That's how you want to train your horse. And then the next day, they're not going to come into the gym and do squats again. They're probably going to go to the upper body. And then after that, the day after that, they may not do any weightlifting at all. So really varying your workouts. And for instance, if you have a dressage horse and then you're working up the levels, a jumping horse that you're working up the levels, they need to build strength. They need to build strength. They need to build stamina. So you don't train those the same way. So you don't do the same ride every day, because that just, it doesn't change anything. It kind of keeps the muscle stagnant and then could make the horse sore, makes them resentful. And you're also not getting the gains that you want because you're not varying the program enough. And then it might be boring. Some horses don't like doing the same thing every day. So you definitely don't want to have that. And one of the principles that I talk about, one of the games that I talk about a lot is the yo-yo game, where we go from, say one level of collection to another. Like we go from stretchy to collected, or we work transitions. Transitions are part of the yo-yo game. And those things build strength, build suppleness. But if I do, for instance, some canter walk, lots of sort of collected transitions one day, right? That's a yo-yo principle, a yo-yo game. So I am yo-yoing back and forth from walk to the canter, walk to the canter. Maybe I'm trying to get the horse to be a little more uphill, lift their shoulders, thinking about doing some flying changes. So I'm working that. That puts a lot of strain on the hind end. And on the thoracic sling, because I'm asking them to lift it. And then there's a lot of coordination involved too, especially if I'm asking them to maybe go true lead, counter lead, true lead, counter lead, right? So I'm working two parts of the body in a certain way, and I'm also working the brain. So maybe the next day I'm going to come out and I'm going to work more of a longer, lower trot, and we're going to maybe yo-yo that trot shorter, longer in the frame, shorter, longer in the stride. We're going to try to keep the horse flexible, give their butt and their hind legs a little bit of a break, get that back supple and swinging again. And then maybe the next day they go for a hack, right? So we want to keep things interesting, keep things not the same. We don't want to work the same muscles. We don't want to work even the same brain pathways every single day. And some of that depends on your horse. But again, they don't want to be bored. They like to play. So boredom is not your friend. All right, guys, I think I've rambled on enough about my feelings about how we teach horses to do things and how we should also treat riders when we're teaching lessons. But I want to leave you with that feeling of boredom is not your friend. Not your friend for horses or for riders. And really learn about horse ethology, what makes horses tick, what horses like. Horses do have emotions and they do have a prefrontal cortex. Do they process things exactly the same way we do as humans? No, they don't. But they do have emotions. They do have feelings about things. They do get frightened. They do get scared. They do get angry. Keep all of those things in mind when you're thinking about training your horses. They can also get happy and proud. So that's what we really want our horses to feel when we're training them. And we actually want to be teaching them to do things that will help them in this human environment and not just hold them into a frame that will get them around a little box and hopefully get us a good score. I like to think of teaching horses and riders in a much broader spectrum than just that. It's healthier for the human. It's way healthier for the horse. Horses aren't afforded a lot of the natural education that they would have if they lived in the wild, or even if they lived in more natural environments with people, because most domestic horses are kept in environments that are not natural to them. And so we need to teach them skills to be able to deal with that. And to be able to deal with not getting all of the exposure and the other types of learning that they would get if they were a horse in a herd. All right, guys. Until next time, happy riding. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Come Ride With Me. My goal is to demonstrate to riders that we don't have to do something every second of a ride. We don't have to do things a certain way or at a certain time. Just staying present with your horse and gathering non-judgmental information about how they are going is way more beneficial than overthinking and overworking. If you'd like to learn more about what I do at Equus Enlightened, you can find me at equisenlightened.net or on patreon.com/equisenlightened. You can also find me on social media as Equus Enlightened. I will put all the links in the show notes. And until next time, happy riding! Oh, before you go, please remember to rate, review, and share this pod so others can find it. I would love constructive criticism, but like my mom used to say, if you don't have anything really nice to say, there's no need to say it. Just ride on, my friends. Have a great week.